The summer is a killer. First off, the beaches. The Cape May beaches. I know Jersey and beaches don't sound like much in your head, but trust me, during the summer, you want to be there. It's packed with action. Sunset Beach is the big one of all the beaches. The sunsets are beautiful. I'm not an overly sentimental kind of guy, but I damn near cried watching a sunset there once. They have a Sunset Beach flag ceremony where visitors can watch an American flag being retired at the end of the day. It's really something. That's just the start of what makes Cape May so killer. The boardwalk? Forget about it. People love the boardwalk. It's not as long as other boardwalks, but it's a great place to walk on. Cape May peanut butter, famous fudge shops, plus a bunch of other arcades, eateries, all the good stuff you want on a date, or with a family, or both. There's so much more, though. Washington Street Mall, which has a ton of live music during the summer, Cape May County Park and Zoo, Cape May Winery and Vineyard, Cape May Stage, which is the local theater. They've got a lot of plays and musicals that are actually good. And I'm not even a big theater guy. If you want to do something with the kids, though, once you've done everything else and still need more, whale and dolphin watching tours. You get to actually see them in their natural habitat. I love it. I try to play it off like I'm doing it for my kids, but I'm really the one who wants to see the whales and dolphins. It's awesome. The thing that makes Cape May a killer, though, the architecture. Victorian architecture. If you want to be specific, it even has a historic district with all these bed and breakfasts that people eat up during the summer, pun intended. And the history isn't fake either. They offer walking tours so you can learn all about the history of the town and all these different beautiful old-time houses. My favorite thing about Cape May, personally, I'd go with the lighthouse. It's at Cape May Point State Park. 199 steps to the top. Panoramic views of the coastline. It's awesome. It's where I asked my wife to marry me. We had our first date there, so it was a no-brainer on my end. Luckily, her answer was a no-brainer too. It's been 4 years and 2 kids since she said yes. We got a nice thing going on. Me, my wife Stacy, the boy Carlo, and the new one, Iris. She's turning 3 months tomorrow. We had a place over in Wildwood, which is about a 20-minute drive to Cape May, depending on the season and traffic. I was now security guard for the Congress Hotel, which is one of the more premier spots in Cape May to stay at. I got the gig a month ago, May 1st to be exact. Stacy's cousin was one of the front desk associates at Congress. She told them that I had worked security for a while at the Asbury Hotel. The requirements of the job weren't that different from what I had been doing already at the Asbury, which was one of the fancier over there. The only real difference at the new gig was I had to wear a suit, instead of the black shirt and slacks we got to wear at the Asbury, which was damn cozy if I do say so myself. But the Congress Hotel suit felt kind of snazzy once I got used to it, and the wife certainly approved. Summer was pretty nuts. I'd be running around the whole time because there were so many people coming in and out of the hotel every day. The action was nonstop. My days were long. You start with pre-shift prep. There is a briefing or handover from the previous guard, Otis. Otis would give me updates on any ongoing issues, special events, or security concerns. Next was the equipment check, inspecting and ensuring that all necessary security equipment, radio, keys, flashlight, are in working order. Bulk of my day was routine patrols of the hotel premises. Lobbies, hallways, guest rooms, stairwells, and exterior areas. Making sure everything was running safely. Beyond that, there were other things that I had to check in on or might pop up. Monitoring the surveillance cameras and observing the live feed from security cameras placed throughout the property. Guest assistance. You get a lot of this. The customers, for the most part, were pretty wealthy. And wealthy people complain the most because everything needs to be perfect. Anytime they can exude some type of power, they will. Even though most of the complaints were super minor, providing directions, lockouts happened all the time, mainly with the younger wealthy folk who got too drunk and lost their keys. Half the time, I wasn't even being asked to do something. It was just a peace of mind to have a visible presence to offer reassurance and support to all the guests. What else? Handling complaints or concerns from guests related to security or safety issues, monitoring access points, ensuring that only authorized individuals had access to restricted areas, such as service rooms or staff only zones, checking IDs, verifying the identities of visitors or contractors as needed, especially if they need access to specific areas of the hotel, emergency response, medical incidents, fire alarms, or disturbances, coordinating with local emergency services if necessary. Event security. If there was a special event, such as a wedding, conference, or holiday party, it was on me and my team for managing crowd control, monitoring entrances, ensuring the event is smooth and safe. Incident reporting. Documenting any incidents or unusual occurrences, including writing reports and logging detail of any security related events. Everything had to be extremely detailed and specific, much more than when I worked at the Asbury. With Congress, at the end of every day, I had to complete a detailed end of shift report summarizing any incidents, security concerns, or maintenance issues observed during my shift. And then I had to hand it all off to Otis, who came in for the morning shift. Yeah, I was the overnight guy. The shaft shift, as we like to call it, because it's when you get the most annoying issues, since people were either hammered or being snobs. During the day, nobody was in their hotel because they were all at the beach or walking around town. But the staff was nice. They ran a tight ship. As crazy as summer was, it was a steady, good paying gig, so I couldn't complain too much. It definitely beats being a parole officer, which I had been for 3 years way back when. That job sucked. Everything about it felt corrupt. This was a sanctuary compared to doing that. I kept my original parole officer case file folder as a reminder to be grateful for working security at the Congress. One perk was that you'd become friendly with some of the regulars. There was Sue and Bernie, who had been married for 55 years. There was Christine and Pat, who just got married at the age of 60. There was Glenn, the former mountain climber. Sonny, the ex-police chief. The list went on and on. I liked it. Made the job more personable when you knew and actually even cared about the people you were hired to watch over. Stacy was working part-time as a librarian, which was great because it meant she got to be with the kids a lot and we didn't have to spend a fortune on daycare. Carlo was 3, which meant he was a handful. You ever hear of the terrible 2s? Well, that extends to the terrible 3s. I shouldn't say terrible. He has his good moments. And I'm going to miss all these moments when I blink and he's 18 years old and moving out of the apartment. Well, hopefully we have a house for him to move out of by the time he graduates high school. All in all, things were pretty good. Great family, good job, nice beaches. For a guy who didn't need much, I had it all, and then some. And then summer ended. Winter started, which I was looking forward to, for some peace and quiet. But what I got was anything but peaceful. They warned me. Winter is a different animal. This is what the staff told me who worked year-round, which was not many people, but they did all say the same thing at different times. The hotel was operating at maybe 20% of its summer capacity, which was true for the whole town, really. It kind of turned into a ghost town during the winter. Luckily, I had a year-round job. Most people didn't. A lot of the folks around there had to find another gig until summer started back up, which was rough. Some could make decent cash during the summer and let that carry them for a while, mainly the bartenders. If you saved and didn't spend, you could make good bank from June until September. After that, it all came to a halt. Truthfully, I loved the winter. It was so quiet and calm. There were no lines. anywhere, for anything. Everyone knew each other. Not literally, but it became a pretty tight-knit community amongst the few and far between of those who had lived there all year round. Winter customers at the Congress were so much nicer. And low-key, mostly older folks. All they wanted to do was spend a weekend outside the city and walk along the beach in a sweatshirt. God bless them. Don't give me no trouble, there won't be any trouble. Simple enough, right? The coldest weekend of the year turned out to be the last weekend of the year. December 24th and 25th, Christmas Eve and Christmas. Temperatures got down to around 20 degrees. Not much action in a beach town when it's freezing outside. The previous couple of months, I had sort of settled into the quiet routine. All the same steps each day, but with very little fanfare. The most dramatic thing that happened was that Glenn, the former mountain climber, had died in his room. Heart attack. He was 88, lived a full life. But it's still sad if you knew the guy. He had a real spunk to him. Besides that, zilch. You could walk from end to end of town and see maybe 3 people, tops. I'd walk my dog in the morning and you would hear someone cough from 3 blocks away. Otis had taken off for Christmas and New Year's. Him and his wife were going to Jamaica for some much-needed and well-earned R&R. I was the only guard on call for Christmas weekend, which meant time and a half. I was happy to do it, for 2 reasons. 1, it was bone-dry quiet. They really didn't need full-time security at this point on the calendar, but they had to, legally, just in case crap hit the fan. Me and Otis were swapping stories about how boring our days were. We were battling for boredom supremacy. 2, it was the holidays, and who doesn't want some extra cash during the holidays? We had been planning to get Stacy her own car so she can get around easier and not need to call her mom or her sister or her cousin Cheryl for rides. With this much overtime, she'd be able to get that car. I had taken off the previous week, so this was my first day back in town after spending a week in Florida visiting Stacy's parents. 80 degrees and 4 extra hands to help with the kids was a pretty sweet way to spend a week. Plus, I get along well with the in-laws. All in all, it was an actual vacation. This should have been the quietest weekend of the entire year. Nobody goes to a hotel for Christmas weekend. Christmas is a time to stay home or go visit family in their homes. On top of that, we were expecting snow. Even less reason for people to travel. There was only one kind of person who would come to Congress Hall for Christmas weekend. Kooks, a.k.a. ghost chasers. Let me back up a little. Cape May has a long history, dating back to the 17th century. Remember how I mentioned it's renowned for its architecture? Well, it's renowned for something else, too. Dating back a long time, it's one of the most haunted places in the United States. For example, the Queen Victoria Inn, a charming bed and breakfast. Me and Stacy stayed there for a weekend when Carlo was about 1.5. This place is said to be haunted by several spirits. Guests have reported hearing footsteps, seeing apparitions, and experiencing mysterious disturbances. Some believe that the spirits might be former guests or residents from the late 19th century or early 20th centuries. We had a delightful time. No ghosts, but the breakfast was a little bland. Up next, the Emlyn Physic Estate, a Victorian mansion and museum which is associated with ghostly occurrences. Visitors and staff have reported seeing apparitions and hearing unexplained noises. The mansion, once the home of Dr. Emlyn Physic, is believed to be haunted by the spirits of former residents or visitors. I can't say I know too much about this place. Never been there. This next one has a special place in my heart for reasons I said earlier. The Cape May Lighthouse, historic landmark, has its own share of ghost stories. Some people believe the lighthouse is haunted by the spirits of former keepers or sailors. Visitors and staff have reported strange noises, flickering lights, and ghostly figures near the lighthouse. The lighthouse's long history as a guiding beacon for ships contributes to its haunted reputation, with tales of shipwrecks and maritime ghosts adding to the lore. It's also where I got engaged, so add that to a list of freak occurrences. The Chalfante Hotel, one of the oldest in Cape May, is also known for its ghost stories. Guests have reported sightings of apparitions, particularly of women in Victorian dress. The hotel's historic ambiance and age contribute to its reputation for paranormal activity. Stories of ghostly figures and unexplained phenomena are common, with many attributing the hauntings to the hotel's long history and its past guests. The Cape May County Historical Museum is said to be haunted by the former residents and staff. Visitors have reported strange occurrences, like cold spots and unexplained noises. And lastly, Congress Hall. That's right, my current job. All of the same stuff you've heard about the other places. Ditto for Congress. One well-known story involves the ghost of a young girl who is said to haunt the hotel, often appearing in the hallways or in guest rooms. I've been here almost 7 months. I can say without a doubt that it's been nothing but sunshine so far. Was I told to maybe embellish some stories to guests if they asked about ghosts? Yeah, which I may have done on 1 or 2 occasions. I told a group of women celebrating a bachelorette party that I heard strange whispers while walking through the hallway alone. I told a group of German tourists who called themselves Demon Nation to never stay in room 213, because that's where I had seen an old woman in the reflection of a mirror. I told Sue and Bernie to never take a shower after midnight, because the water will turn to blood. They ate it up, even though they knew I was joking. None of those things are true, by the way. Congress Hall was a delight. I'd say 10% of our guests during winter were people who were hoping to see a ghost. I don't mess around with anything supernatural. I can barely watch a horror movie without shrieking anytime some demon pops on the screen. My wife is more entertained by me watching the movie than actually watching the movie. Deservedly so. I don't know when I stopped being a man. I used to be a man, I think. Low testosterone, maybe. If you need me to break up a fight between 10 drunk guys at a hotel bar, call me. If you need me to go check out a weird noise in the basement, call an exorcist. I'll be halfway out the door. I had the afternoon, evening, and overnight shift today. / tomorrow. Stacy was making the kids lunch when I was getting ready to leave. It was freezing outside. I had to warm the car up for about 10 minutes just to make sure it didn't have a vehicular heart attack. I do remember driving through town and it felt even more dead than normal. I don't think I saw one person the entire time I was on the road. Stacy said we might get a foot of snow, which probably spooked people to staying inside. Either way, I made incredible time. I got there so early, I decided to double back a little to pick up a coffee from the Mad Batter, which for my money was easily the best coffee spot in Cape May. Coffee at the Congress wasn't bad, but it wasn't Mad Batter. And if I'm pulling an extra shift, I need the purest caffeine. It was empty when I walked in to order my large coffee. The smell was intoxicating. I didn't even notice that the place was completely empty until I was halfway out the door. Afternoon and evening were quiet as could be. We only had one desk associate this week, Stacy's cousin, Cheryl. First order of business whenever I walk in was to ask the desk associate for a tally of guests. When Cheryl didn't respond right away, I knew the answer was going to be funny. She just held up a finger. One finger. One room? Cheryl nodded. How many guests? Cheryl kept her one finger up. One guest? In the whole hotel? Cheryl nodded. There were 108 rooms in the Congress. The lowest I'd ever seen before this was 13 rooms. But we were required to have a certain amount of staff on the premises. This was a full staff tonight. Me, Cheryl at the front desk, Wesley behind the bar, Stanley the maintenance man, 3 cooks, 3 cleaners. That's it. The tremendous 10. All for one person. I asked Cheryl about our guest, who literally had an entire hotel to himself. She described him down to the tiniest detail. I never heard anyone recite someone else this specifically. He had striking silver hair. His clothes were retro, dark brown suit. His jacket had a notched lapel and a single-breasted design, giving it a more formal yet slightly worn look. His shirt was a pale pastel shade, very narrow tie. His vest was pitch black, darker leather dress shoes polished to the point of shining, dark, slightly tattered overcoat. Some type of wristwatch I had never seen before. The only thing he was holding was a black briefcase. His facial expression never changed until he stopped speaking and smiled. It was a weird smile. Something off. I was blown away by the description. So I guess you didn't get a good look at him, huh? She had more. I couldn't believe she had more. Have you ever seen Fright Night? The 1985 horror movie? This clown looks exactly like Roddy McDowall in Fright Night. None of this was freaking me out, though. What did freak me out was when he turned around to walk to the hotel. He smiled at me, but the only thing that moved on his face was his mouth. The way the mouth of a ventriloquist dummy will rise and close, but the rest of his head remained perfectly still. There was no soul behind this smile. There was just something off. Yeah, you said that twice, something being off. I had to bust Cheryl's chops for swooning. I asked her if she was blushing. She said she found him quite intoxicating. I said that was cause she's still intoxicated from the night before. She didn't laugh. She didn't even respond. As if she didn't hear me. She seemed to stare away. I waved my hands in front of her face. She looked like she was just buffering. Finally, I snapped my fingers, and she came back too, as if nothing happened. "What's up?" she asked. "You all right?" "It's going to be quite the night," she said, smiling. I double-tapped the front desk counter and then walked off to make my rounds. There were worse ways to spend your time. The Congress Hotel was beautiful. The lobby is big and inviting. High ceilings with intricate moldings and elegant chandeliers. Rich classic furnishings and an array of antique-inspired decor. Plush seating areas with comfortable armchairs and sofas with fabrics that create a welcoming atmosphere. The reception desk is crafted from wood with a classic design. Everything adds to this old historical feel. Ornate rugs, vintage artwork, decorative mirrors. The color palette tends to be warm and calm, with shades of gold, burgundy, and deep greens. I've been able to stay free in a suite a couple of times. Each room is uniquely decorated, often featuring classic Victorian-inspired furnishings, such as four-poster beds, antique dressers, and elegant writing desks. Soothing and refined color schemes with rich tones and soft pastels. You feel calmer just walking through it. They've got all the main modern amenities: flat-screen TVs, high-speed internet, upscale toiletries. Some of the rooms have period-style fireplaces, which Stacy got a big kick out of. The dining area is really suave. Tables set in classic style, high-back chairs, polished wooden tables, classic lighting fixtures. During warmer months, the dining room extends to outdoor patios with views of the gardens or ocean. Those areas are furnished with comfortable seating and top-notch table settings. Event spaces are really something too. They're big enough to host weddings, but people use them for all kinds of parties, meetings, other special occasions. I've been doorman probably 10 times, checking IDs outside the room while music played and people gave speeches. The ballroom has those high ceilings, chandeliers, and really large windows that lets all this natural light shine through. It's beautiful during the summer. Right now, empty. Quiet. Just like all the other main rooms. It's a little spooky when it's quiet. There's also a library with reading rooms, lounge areas, spa and fitness center, which I have not used, and promised Stacy I'd continue to use. I need to shed some holiday pounds. Not this weekend, though. When Otis gets back, I can get on that treadmill. My favorite, though? The lobby bar. All the Victorian details you'd find around the rest of the hotel. But there's something about a hotel bar. You can be anyone, from anywhere. Everyone is friendlier at the hotel bar, because they're having a vacation from their life. They feel timeless. I've knocked a couple back with Otis here from time to time. My favorite place to unwind. The summer bartenders were gone. The winter bartender, Wesley, was a trip. He was pushing 70, but had the spirit of a much younger guy. Shaved head, wore polo shirts and a seashell necklace. Everything about his wardrobe contradicted something else. But he was a funny fella, intentionally and unintentionally. His accent, for the life of me, could not be placed. As I walked by, he yelled out, Tacoma! Because that was the kind of truck I drove. I honestly don't know if he knew my real name, because he's been calling me Tacoma ever since he started working in the winter a couple months back. I gave him the salute and kept making the rounds. Until I got beeped. Say again, Cheryl? Me and Cheryl had a direct line on the walkie-talkie in case she needed me to check on something.
Room 44 would like a word.
I stopped. A word? What does that mean?
He has some security concerns he would like to discuss.
You gotta be kidding me. We got one guest in the whole hotel and he's gonna be a problem? I beeped her back and said, all right, over. I clicked off and headed to the elevator. Security concerns my ass. Here comes a power trip from some rich yuppie. Normally, I might say I was needed somewhere else. I couldn't use that excuse tonight. He was the only person here. I took the elevator up, dreading each passing floor. Great. The heater is busted. When I stepped onto the 4th floor, I was freezing. For what it's worth, I had a high threshold for cold. This is one of the few advantages of being a husky guy. I could stomach the cold. But this was brutal. I beeped Cheryl, told her have maintenance check on the heater. She didn't respond. Mental reminder to tell her in person on the way back down. Room 404. Here we go. Deep breath. Be polite. Deep breath. Be polite.
Hello?
He said. His accent felt stuffy. He sounded like he had just walked out of one of those Victorian paintings on the wall.
Thank you for coming. May we talk for a moment?
He stepped to the side, presenting a pathway into his hotel suite. I said sure and walked inside. Boy, this room was a beaut, I'm telling you. My dogs were barking from all this walking, but as soon as I hit the suite rug, all that barking stopped. His room was also a perfect temperature, unlike the Antarctic hallway.
Please, make yourself comfortable,
he said from behind. I sat in the writer's desk, a fancy workstation tucked toward the right corner of his suite. How can I help you, sir? He sat down across from me with his distant, cold glare, holding the reddest glass of wine I've ever seen.
I would offer you a drink, but I have to assume you cannot oblige.
He was correct, but I thanked him anyway, then asked again, how can I help? He checked his watch, his ancient watch, and then explained.
Well, I'm having some company over tonight, and it's quite imperative that we not be disturbed while they are here. Would you be able to ensure that?
I said that it was Christmas weekend, and the hotel was really quiet tonight, so we shouldn't worry about anyone disturbing them. He said he could not take that risk and was willing to offer me a financial incentive to stand guard. I told him that it was my job to watch the entire perimeter of the hotel. He took out a $100 bill, slid it across the table to me. Then he took out 9 more $100 bills and placed them right in between us. He spoke calmly.
$1,000 for 1 hour. That's all you have to do is stand outside my door and make sure nobody interrupts my meeting. Do we have a deal?
Don't be an idiot. That was Cheryl's response after I told her about the proposition. $1,000 for 1 hour? You'd be crazy not to do it. You think I want to keep driving Stacy around town? Do it, Dodo. Dodo was Cheryl's nickname for me. My first and last name started with a D. First it was Double D, then it became Dodo. She got me this job. She can call me whatever she wants. Plus she was right. I was crazy not to do it. There was a part of me that hoped that Cheryl would tell me not to. I couldn't shake the odd feeling of this guy. Cheryl's description was right. He just felt off. He wanted me to stand outside his door from midnight until 1 a.m. That's it. Afterward, I'd be $900 richer. He let me keep the initial $100. I thought he had some young girl coming to his room, or a guy, or both. Whoever it was, he was paranoid someone would see them together. If I had a nickel for every time I saw a guy with someone who wasn't his wife, I wouldn't need to be contemplating taking $1,000 to stand outside some weirdo's door. All right, I told Cheryl. I'm going up. If I come back down without a head, it's on you. fourth floor was still freezing. Sal was slacking. He was probably half in the bag, not that I can blame him. This day was starting to drag. And now I was going to have to stare at a wall for an hour. I planted myself right outside his room onto a chair I had brought up from the empty event hall. It was one of those really cushy numbers with a vintage plush purple back. I never got to actually sit in the comfy chairs because I was always working the room. This was sweet. I checked my watch, 11:55. Rookie mistake. Never checked the time. Always set a timer. So I did. I pictured myself walking to my house at 8 a.m. right as my wife and two small kids were rummaging around the Christmas tree. This was my current carrot to chase. I should have brought a book. Do I have any books? My wife has books. I'll grab one next time for emergencies. I couldn't hear anything from inside the room. The walls were pretty thick, part of the appeal, and part of the creepiness. You could hear a pin drop from one side of the hallway to another. The elevator door opened. I turned. Walking down the long hallway toward me was a very tall, very skinny, older man, pushing another man in a wheelchair. I couldn't see much of the man in the wheelchair. He was slunk down, nearly keeling over, his pale, shriveled skin desperately holding on to what remained of his bones. Behind them came another pair. This pair was an older woman, dressed in some sort of old Victorian garb, pushing a black stroller with a heavy mask covering the opening. I stood up. The tall, slender man knocked 3 times on the door. A few seconds later, it opened and this motley crew of nightmares walked inside. None of them made eye contact, except for the woman, whose eyes followed me as they slid past the doorway. Fright Night stopped and leaned towards me.
All I ask is that you do not leave your post. It is of grave importance. Do you swear an oath?
I didn't swear or talk. I just nodded. Then Fright Night extended his hand out toward me. We shook. Then he smiled and closed the door. I sat back down. My interest had spiked. This creep had quite the entourage. I scooted my chair slightly closer, hoping to hear something. Zilch. The light at the end of the hallway went out. That was a new one. I beeped Sal. No response. I beeped Cheryl to follow up with Sal. No response. Great. I'm the only sucker not getting blitzed with Wesley at the bar. Don't check the watch. Don't check the watch. Don't check the watch. Don't check the watch. I got beeped. Yeah? No response. Just static. Low, simmering static. Another light went off. 2 down. 7 to go. The lights inside the room went off too. I had a suspicion that wasn't an electrical issue. Another hallway light went off. It was starting to get dark in here. I beeped Stanley. No response. Beep Cheryl. No response. I can't go downstairs or else this guy might keep the money. What the hell was going on around here? Slacking. I should be slacking too. Damn Fright Night and this demented band of misfit toys making me stand here like a sucker. And then I got beeped.
Heyo, Dodo!
It was Stanley, maintenance man. He always sounded like he was calling you from the inside of a helicopter. This was no different. Yeah, Stan, what's up? He was rambling about a leak on the 2nd floor that had to be coming from room 213. I asked him why he couldn't check on it. He said he was in the basement trying to fix the heater. Of all the times for Stanley to be diligent. I asked if he could check on the leak after the heater. He said that it was leaking into the lobby and creating a hazard. Alright. I told him I would go check on 213. I turned to Fright Night's door, put my hand up to knock, but then stopped midair. It was barely 5 minutes into his meeting of the malignant minds, and I was about to do the one thing I was being paid $1,000 not to do, which was to interrupt the meeting. So I put my hand back down toward my side and sat back down, debating what to do. Damn, all the nights. I got beeped again by Cheryl. She said it was like a monsoon in the lobby and I needed to go check on room 213. All right, I told her. Hold your horses. Bye-bye $900. I had to go stop a leak. The 4th floor was freezing. The second floor was a furnace. Good God, I was sweating as soon as I stepped out of the elevator. Instead of 3 lights out, 6 lights on, this was the opposite. 6 lights were out, 3 lights were on. When I got to 213, I could see that the room was already slightly open. My first thought is that one of the cooks had gotten smashed, brought a girl up for some quality alone time, and then left a faucet on. Something similar had happened around Thanksgiving. They canned the guy right away. I walked inside to 213 and called out to see if anyone would respond. All the lights were out, except for the bathroom light. Not only was it on, but it was bright. I had to shield my eyes the closer I got. I was shaking my head from 10 feet away because I could hear the sink running. The floor was drenched. What kind of jerk leaves the water running? I can't wait to get this guy. I turned off the faucet and then I heard something. From inside the room. It was giggling. Behind the shower curtain. I took in a deep breath. I was about to blow a fuse, and I gave him a warning. Whoever is in there, get out. You caused a flood in the lobby. I'm not messing around. I stepped right outside the bathroom to continue threatening this idiot. You've got 5 seconds. The giggling got louder. I would have recognized it, which meant they had lent the room to a friend or lover. Whoever it was, they needed to get out. I started counting down. 3, 2, 1. I went back inside, yelled, I'm opening the curtain, you hear me? The laugh just got louder and older. I could feel the skin of the neck when he laughed. Or she. I couldn't tell the gender. I gave one final warning, and then I ripped the shower curtain open. Empty. Just an empty bathtub. I turned around and saw the reflection of something in the mirror. I don't know what it was, but it startled me so bad that I slipped backwards right into the tub, which was now filled with blood. I sprung up and dove for the floor, sliding into the doorway. I was frantically wiping my face when I could feel a cold rush of wind swallowing the air above me. I looked up. It was Glenn. His skin was melting off his body like a candle. His teeth and jaw plopped down onto the ground like hot fudge. He reached his rapidly decaying hands out toward me and opened his mouth. I could see centipedes sliding around his lips up towards his now empty sockets. I ran for the door and dove into the hallway. I turned back and the door slammed shut behind me. I was a shivering mess, completely frozen. I heard that giggling again. I turned to the hallway. There was a little girl. She was giggling, with her back to me. And then the light above her went out. She turned around. Another light went out. She got on all fours. Another light went out. She started crawling toward me like a spider. Another light went out. She was 5 feet away until I felt the hand on my shoulder. I turned with a raised fist. It was Cheryl, putting her hands up in surrender. Whoa, take it easy, she yelled. I was mumbling incoherently. She couldn't understand anything I was saying. I couldn't understand anything I was saying. She laughed, mocking me. It wasn't the first time I had teased her about this hotel actually being haunted. It wasn't even the 5th time I had teased her about this hotel being haunted. Any chance I could get to exploit Cheryl's complete aversion to being scared, I took advantage of it. She would always brush it off and hit my shoulder, telling me she didn't like horror stuff. I was pleading with her. She told me to stop messing around and asked if I found the leak. I was shaking with fear. Who cares about a leak? Can't she hear anything I was saying to her? Why am I drenched in blood, Cheryl? She said I wasn't. Then she said to try a little harder with my pranks next time. At least soak your clothes if you're going to say something like that. She was right. My clothes were dry, minus the pit stains from a panic attack, and all the lights in the hallway were on. She said to go check on Sal down in the basement. He wasn't returning her beeps, and she had to go back to the front desk. Plus, that big basement gave her the spooks, unlike whatever the hell I was doing, she said, which was just stupid and immature. She walked away as I laid on the hallway floor in complete shock. As Cheryl got into the elevator, instead of a ponytail, I could see the back of her skull. It was open, I could see worms swimming around her scalp. The elevator door closed. All the hallway lights went out. Hell is not on my bucket list. So rather than go back into room 213 and risk seeing whatever I had just seen again, I decided to let those demons enjoy the view and sprint down the stairs toward the basement to go get Sal. Cheryl didn't believe me, but Sal would, I think. He was kind of a conspiracy nut, in the best way possible. We have had some wild late-night talks. If anyone would believe me, it's Sal. Sal! Sal, you down here? The further I got away from room 213, the more I wanted to go back. I was not prone to hallucinations. Sure, I've spooked myself late at night a couple times when going to pee at 3 in the morning. But everyone does that, right? This was not that. I heard someone laughing. I felt that water. I saw Glenn. Glenn! What the hell was that? Sal wasn't responding to my shouts. I quickly found out why. He had hung himself. His body was swaying back and forth. I took out my tiny Swiss Army knife, placed a chair underneath him, and then quickly cut the rope. I checked for a pulse. None. I beeped Cheryl. I told her to come down here, quickly. I took a long, deep breath, and then I placed my hand onto Sal. My hand fell through his chest as if it was made of paper. My entire arm was now inside of Sal's torso, being held there by the shrapnel of teeth that had formed just under where his chest was. It was as if the mouth of an alligator was hibernating under Sal's heart. I screamed in pain. The teeth bit into my arm and I could feel my bones splitting in half. I screamed with every fiber of my being until I felt another squeeze of my shoulder. I turned around. It was Cheryl again. She was pale white. What's happening, Dodo? I checked my arm. I had an arm. I was mumbling again. Incoherent. I pointed to where Sal's body had been. It wasn't there. Beside me on the basement floor was a CPR doll. Cheryl asked the most rational question one could ask in my current predicament. What were you doing with that CPR doll? I leapt up onto my feet, screaming about how I found Sal down here. He was dead. Who's dead? That's what we heard being asked from behind us, by Sal, who walked up with half of his face covered in charcoal. Clogged filters, he told us. What a pain in the butt, he added, before asking why I looked like I had just seen a ghost. I walked over to the sink and began frantically washing my face. Sal and Cheryl stood nearby. They had never seen me this shook before. They had never even seen me shook up at all. I turned and made them swear to be honest with me. Cheryl giggled. I said this wasn't a joke. On my kids' lives, I said. Now she knew I was serious. So I asked them if they had ever seen anything strange around the hotel. Cheryl's brief moment of empathy switched back to frustration before she said, no, she had not. She was not in the mood for a prank, so I should just forget it. And then she walked back up the stairs into the lobby. I turned to Sal. Once, he said. Once? What happened? What happened once? And why hadn't you told me this before? He said that it happened a long time ago. Almost 30 years. That's how long he had been working for the hotel. It was late at night, and he had never seen anything like it since. Seen what, Sal? Seen what? Then we both got beeped. It was Cheryl. She was yelling for us to come up to the lobby. Maybe she had seen something too. I was actually relieved. Now she wouldn't think I was a kook. Proof that there was something sinister going on in this hotel. I wouldn't be alone. I wasn't crazy. We could see the fright in her eyes from 50 feet away. Not from Cheryl. Maria, one of the maids. She was lying on the lobby floor, rocking back and forth, crossing her chest, shivering, speaking rapidly in Spanish. Me and Sal both huddled around them as Cheryl sat next to her, trying to be some sort of comfort. I asked what happened. Cheryl said Maria emerged from the elevator and started having convulsions. When Cheryl wrapped her hands around Maria, the convulsions had stopped, but then this started. I couldn't understand what Maria was saying, neither could Cheryl. Diablo, Sal said. She's saying devil. She's saying I saw his eyes. The elevator door opened. We all turned. It was the motley crew of Misfit Nightmares. They were walking in the same formation out of the elevator, sloshing through the flooded lobby toward the exit, until they finally faded into the bitter black night beyond the hotel. Cheryl was crying. She was asking us what was going on. I stood up and said, "I think it's time I had a word with room 404. We all got off onto the 4th floor. I was clutching my nightstick. Sal was clutching a wrench. Cheryl was clutching a mop. Maria was clutching the cross around her neck and rapidly speaking in Spanish prayers. The temperature seemed to have rescinded back to normal as we slowly made our way down the hallway. The hallway, which was now pitch black. I took out my flashlight and aimed ahead. Room 404 was open. The light was on. When we got right outside the door, we could see Fright Night standing by the window. I told them to stay here, outside the room. Maria grabbed my hand. I turned. She handed me her cross. I took it and then walked inside. As soon as my second foot hit the carpet, the door slammed shut behind me. 3 sets of hands started banging. I held up my nightstick, ready to pound Fright Night's brains into the carpet and create a new floor design with his skull. I demanded answers. I told him to tell me what the hell was going on. I gave him to the count of 5. He started speaking.
Everything needs to feed.
I was counting. I was down to 7. He continued to speak.
The child was chosen. Do you have any idea how many children it took to find the correct one? Chosen one. To act as his next vessel. After all these years, all these many years, we had found it. The transition would be seamless, just as it had been all those times before. And all you had to do was watch the door.
He turned around. I could see his eyes. His red eyes. He continued speaking.
But then she walked in and accepted his dark hand.
I smashed my nightstick over the left side of his face. He fell to the floor. I could see something black dribbling out of his nose as he stood back up, smiling.
The spirit does not choose you. You choose the spirit. And now, the spirit is free.
The lights went out. I took my flashlight and aimed it back towards him. He was standing by the window. The whistling Arctic air was slicing through my cheeks. I told him to freeze. He turned back to me.
This world is no longer yours.
And then, he jumped. There was no body. The 4 of us stood outside in the freezing cold, staring into an empty parking lot. We debated whether or not to call the cops. What would we tell them? That someone had jumped from the 4th story and then disappeared? We all went up to room 213. Empty, clean, dry. Do we call the owner? Tell him what happened? He would just think we're insane and fire us. Could we risk that? Who could we tell? Do we tell anyone? How could anyone think we weren't out of our minds? What we had seen that night was in fact crazy. Cheryl pointed out that she had not seen anything. She was the only one, so even she was skeptical. Except for Fright Night. She had seen him. She had seen him in room 404. And then when I opened the door, he was gone. She had seen that. Even she could not deny that she had seen that. Cheryl asked what I saw that night. After I told them, all of them, what I had seen, Sal told us what he saw all those years ago. He said he had to go into room 404 because the other guests were complaining about a smell, a rancid smell, coming from this room that was vacant. So it was on to Sal to go investigate it. He told us that he walked into the room and he saw someone sitting on the bed. He asked who they were and what they were doing here. When the person turned around, Sal saw the face. It was his father, who had died when Sal was 6. Did he say anything? Cheryl asked. After a moment, Sal finally spoke. Never look it in the eyes. That was all Sal could remember. He blacked out and then woke up on the hotel room floor. His father was gone, and he never told anyone. He was too embarrassed. People would just think he was crazy. He said that's what most people do when they feel something dark. When they sense that there is an ominous spirit nearby, they say nothing out of fear. Fear that they will be laughed at, fear that they will be ostracized, and worse than all that, fear that it's real. Sal never spoke a word of it to anyone, until right now. Cheryl was holding back tears. Listening to me and Sal tell our stories, she had to brace herself for Maria. We all did. We all had to know what Maria saw when she walked into room 404. By this time, Maria seemed to be remarkably calm. Much calmer than all of us. She never told us what she saw. Instead, she just smiled. There was something about her smile. It was just off.